2020, now we have to deal with biological men in women's sports. Biologically male MMA fighter Fallon Fox fractured their opponent's skull during a fight.
But that was not what was going on here. What was going on here was this woman who used to be a man for 32 years transitioned to being a woman and it didn't tell anybody. And fought two different women who thought they were fighting a woman and got smashed.
Badly injured, yeah.
Well, I was watching it. It was like watching a man fight a woman. That's what I was watching. I was like, this isn't like particularly, she wasn't particularly skillful. It wasn't like she had like some unbelievable background in judo, like Ronda Rousey or something like that. It wasn't that. You were just literally watching a former man beat up women.
Australian handball player Hannah Mountsie stands at 6'2" and weighs in at 220 pounds. The videos speak for themselves.
Hannah Mountsie should have been a shoo-in to play at the elite level of the women's Aussie Rules competition. But late last year, the AFL said no, deciding she was too much of a physical threat to her opponents.
Mary Gregory smashed 4 women's world records in weightlifting.
Well, some congratulations are in order tonight for powerlifter Mary Gregory. Gregory just competed at a 100% raw powerlifting tournament. Gregory competed in 9 events and won all 9 of them.
What's good, YouTube? This is KB LaFleur. You can call me KB. Welcome back to another video, man. I'm glad y'all here. I'm glad y'all here because we in for a good one, man. We got pretty much one lady. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know. She kind of look like a man herself in a sense, but you know, she's actually an athlete who pretty much had to compete against a man. And you know, she's gonna pretty much tell her story as to why trans men shouldn't be out here playing, or trans women, or pretty much guys who transition to be women, why they shouldn't be playing in women's sports. You know, I've said this numerous of times. They shouldn't be playing in women's sports. Men should not be playing in women's sports. Period. And you got another guy, and you know, it's pretty much a TikTok video. Both of these are. So before we get into that, man, do me a huge favor. Leave me a like, a comment, and subscribe.
Men are genetically predisposed to be stronger than women. Competitions should be an even playing field. It is not fair for natural-born women to have to compete with people who were formerly men. This is not a question of sexism, it's a question of fairness. How we have even gotten to this point that it's a question that should be asked is kind of mystifying to me. I'm a supporter of LGBTQ, but this is just ridiculous. How a man can decide to compete in a woman's sport after deciding to be transgender is an absolute joke.
And people will call him transphobic, call him homophobic, because he doesn't believe in delusion and certain people ideology, believing that men can compete against women. Like, we all know that women are weaker than men. We all know that women are weaker than men, and there's no delusion there's not enough delusion in the world that's going to change that fact. There's no delusion in the world that's going to change that fact. We got a lot of people that's trying to, like, we have women. Like, I don't see how women are defending this shit. I don't see how women are sitting up here saying that men who transition to women and are so-called women now should be competing against women. Y'all do understand that. And I believe it's only women who aren't competitors. I believe it's only women who don't play sports, because some of these women I don't see, because I haven't seen a female athlete talk about, you know, hey, I want to compete against, you know what I'm saying, men. I want to compete against men. Now, you got some women who go over here, you know, and compete against men and lose all the time, but they do that to better themselves. So when they do actually go against women, they got an advantage. But I've never seen a woman sit up here and say, you know, hey, I want to actually compete against men, like, and that's solely what they want to do their whole life. You can't. Not physically, you can't. Not physically. The society is trying to brainwash this on a lot of people. And you're going to have a lot of kids trying to grow up, sit up here and say, you know, hey, you know, well, I see a bunch of people competing against men. I want to be like Joanna Man. Like, nigga, what? Like, no, like, time out, son. What you mean you want to be like Joanna Man? What you mean? Dad, I want to out here. I want to play against a bunch of women. I feel like I'm a girl myself, so I think I can play against them. Like, no. You play against freaking men. You play against men. You know, and like I said, that's just an example. You know, but The fact that everybody is trying to push this on people, trying to say this is the right way of thinking, trying to say people need to accept this shit. Like, no. And you got people trying to defend this. Like, how are you trying to defend this? Like, if you are a woman and you compete in sports, I highly doubt you would agree with this shit. I highly doubt you will agree with a man coming into your sports and trying to compete against you. I highly doubt you would accept that, because it's going to be very hard for you to goddamn compete. It's going to be very hard for you to compete against them.
Transgendered athletes are destroying women's sport, yet woke feminists claim that not accepting trans women as real women is wrong.
Because of my inexperience and the strength difference. I didn't want to go through those losses again, so during the off-season, I worked 10 times as hard, competed in national tournaments, and got mentally and physically stronger. That next year, I went on a winning streak and even wrestled on varsity. Because I was forced to adapt to wrestling with a biological disadvantage, I went on to dominate the women's arena. I became a 3-time state champion, 6-time All-American, and 3-time national champion. I was also part of the 2017 Olympic development team. For college, I was recruited to a women's team with the expectation that I would be only competing against other biological women. That is what I believe to be fair. Very few women can hold their own against men in combat sports. I've only been able to do so with my experience and work ethic. In 2020, now we have to deal with biological men in women's sports. Biologically male MMA fighter Fallon Fox fractured their opponent's skull during a fight.
But that was not what was going on here. What was going on here was this woman who used to be a man for 32 years transitioned to being a woman, and it didn't tell anybody. Fought 2 different women who thought they were fighting a woman and got fucking smashed.
Badly injured, yeah.
Well, I was watching it. It was like watching a man fight a woman. That's what I was watching. I was like, this isn't like she wasn't particularly skillful. It wasn't like she had like some unbelievable background in judo, like Ronda Rousey or something like that. It wasn't that. You were just literally watching a former man beat up women.
Australian handball player Hannah Mounty stands at 6'2" and weighs in at 220 pounds. The videos speak for themselves.
Hannah Mounty should have been a shoo-in to play at the elite level of the women's Aussie Rules competition. But late last year, the AFL said no, deciding she was too much of a physical threat to her opponents.
Mary Gregory smashed 4 women's world records in weightlifting.
Well, some congratulations are in order tonight for powerlifter Mary Gregory. Gregory just competed at a 100% raw powerlifting tournament. Gregory competed in 9 events and won all 9 of them, setting 4 records in the process. That was a triumph of the human spirit.
Even while transitioning, estrogen will not change someone's height, arm span, lung capacity, or bone structure. It will
say we got so many, a lot of dumb people will sit up here and say, well, men and women have estrogen and testosterone. Bro, but who has more of what? Men have way more testosterone than women do. So you can't compare the two. Women have way more estrogen than men do. So cut that shit out. Cut that shit out. And see, and the thing is, if some of y'all didn't know, before a trans can actually, I believe, before a trans can compete against women, they have to take a bunch of, they have to go through a bunch of freaking treatments just so they can compete against a woman. So you mean to tell me this man can sit up here, you know what I'm saying? He has to sit up here because he calls himself a girl. He has to sit up here and take all these pills and go through all these treatments and all this stuff. And they will really use that as an excuse to say, you know what, this is why I should compete against these people, because I have to go through all of this. A biological male don't have to go through all this. A biological female don't have to go through all of this. You're right, because they're a woman. That's their sport. That is their sport. You're trying to jump in their sport. So you can't use that excuse that, hey, going, you know, I got to go through treatment just to compete with these women. So that's why I should be able to compete. No, it does not freaking matter. It does not matter, because you're not a biological woman. You're not a biological woman. So my question is, y'all out here giving people pills. Like, it's already dumb enough I didn't even allow this to even let a man play in a woman's sports. But you're sitting over here giving these people drugs just so they can feel better about themselves. So my question is, if y'all giving them drugs so they can compete, make themselves weaker, because that's what it does, is going to make yourself weaker, because you're taking a bunch of estrogen for women, would you then sit up here and allow women to take steroids to compete against men in basketball and football? Even though steroids is illegal, are we still going to allow women to come into our sports? Because I mean, at this point, you might as well let them. You might as well let them. If they're gonna go ahead and come into the sport, you might as well go ahead and let them take steroids there. Let them go ahead. Women who claim to be trans, let them go ahead and, or women who claim to be man, let them go ahead and come on and come play some football. You can take as much steroids as you want. But I thought it was illegal. Right? It's just stupid. It's very, very stupid. And how can you call yourself a feminist when that's not even equal? That's not even equal. That's not even equal. So this stuff is only good for men. Men can only freaking sit over here and jump into women's sports, but women can't jump into men's sports. But we got a bunch of feminists backing this up. And I thought feminism was about equality. Now why you don't have no women running up here, man, playing on football? And I'm not talking about no kicker. I ain't talking about no punter. I'm talking about defensive end, linebacker, running back, wide receiver, strong safety. Put them at one of those positions, not kicker. I see far too many women play kicker and they not even good at that. So put them over here, man, at defensive end. Let's see what they can do. This is the reason why women shouldn't be coaching. They do not need to be coaching, period. I don't care how anybody feels. Women do not need to be coaching. If they did not play football, they don't need to be coaching. Oh, well, you have men who out here coaching and they didn't play no football. Well, I'd rather take a man than a freaking female. I'd rather take a man who I can freaking at least understand, like, hey, he probably knows something about football, than a freaking female. I don't care how much film she studied. A female will never understand, bro, how football is. I don't care how anybody feel. A female will never understand how football is. The grind and the work you have to put into that shit. I do. I play football, man, since 3rd grade. So you mean to tell me now we're in the NFL where they are telling people, they're telling these NFL teams, you have to have black persons, somebody, man, that's of a different ethnicity outside of white, or they have to be trans or whatever, and they have to be a coach in an NFL team. And it's like, what? They have to, like, no. So now you're forcing other people out of their jobs. So it's just like, man, look, this shit is backwards.
Not erase all of their male strength. Does this sound fair? It's becoming a real safety and equality issue for real female athletes, yet we are expected to be okay with it, all in the name of diversity.
That's a fact. Hitting it right on the head, man. That's a fact. She ain't saying no lie. And this is sad that we're really eating this up. It's really sad that society's eating this up. Feminists, like, contradicting themselves. You sitting up here saying that feminism is all about equality, yet you have men entering these women's sports, and it's still proven that no matter how much estrogen they're taking, they can still whoop these women. But yet we still have feminists on here saying you have to accept that. Hey, that's a woman. Yeah, it's like, man, get out of here, man. That's all over the place if you ask me. It's all over the place if you ask me, man. And the fact that you got this video right here.
Connecticut junior Selena Soule won't be competing in the 55-meter dash. She was edged out of the top 6 spots in part by 2 transgender runners.
Go Selena! Go Selena! Come on, you gotta go! Go Selena, come on!
Yes, I have. I have been labeled as transphobic, and I have been labeled as a sore loser, and that I should just try harder and train faster. And I do that, but there's no way I can be physically competitive with someone who is a male. At the Connecticut State Open meet in the indoor season, I was participating in the 55-meter race. You had to qualify from your class meet in, and I qualified in 8th place. And in the preliminary round, I ran close to my personal best, only 100th of a second off of my best. And I came in 8th place, and top 7 qualify for the final, and the top 6 advanced to the New England regional meet. And because there were 2 transgender athletes, that bumped me down to 8th place. And if they weren't there, then I would have been the 6th girl. I would have been ensured a spot in the finals, and I could have gained a higher placement and qualified for the New England meet. It's extremely intimidating and frustrating being forced to compete against someone who's biologically a male. It's scientifically proven that they are bigger and stronger than women, as they have more muscle mass and they have bigger organs. And it's just not a fair contest having a woman compete against a man, because no matter how hard she tries and how much work she puts in practice, the male will always beat her. When we are all at the start line, we all know that these two athletes are going to win. And it should be that the girls are fighting for first and second place versus fighting for third and fourth place. Because in a given race, us girls, we will switch on and off with winning. It's not always the same girl each time, but when these two athletes participated, it is always one of them who is winning the race. This can greatly impact my future with college scholarships, because on the results pages from the meets, there's no identification that these two athletes are transgender. They're either listed under the boys' races or the girls' races. And unless the college coach would go and type into Google these athletes' names, or have watched one of the TV show segments on this, they would have no idea that these athletes are transgender, but they're going to see that their times are way higher than any other girl in the field, and they're going to want to recruit or try to recruit those two athletes. I've gotten attacked by some of the media. I don't pay too much attention to it because I know that majority of the stuff will be negative, but I've had people reach out to me on social media as well as athletes from other schools, and they've thanked me for my speaking out. And right now, currently, in Connecticut, I am the only girl who is speaking out. Everyone else is too afraid. And for me, it's hard speaking out. It's not always easy. But I know that this isn't right, and I'm going to do whatever I possibly can to bring back fairness to my sport.
That says a lot. That says a lot. That tells you everything you freaking need to know, man, about how bad this society is. So y'all do me a huge favor, man. Leave me a like, a comment, and subscribe.